Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Date to Marry. I'm Keith Scurry, and I'm extremely excited about today's episode. We're actually going to be continuing last week's episode. I mean, it was so packed that we didn't get to finish, right? And we were just talking about love, dating, relationships. And today we're actually going to be discussing submission, gender roles, and communication, right? And so I want to introduce, back by popular demand, our superstar panel. We have Tammy, Tay, Ty, and Kristen. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to Date to Marry. How are you ladies feeling this evening?
I am good.
Hi, I'm doing well.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Good.
And so I know last week, right? We went about 2 hours, right? And we didn't get to finish. And instead of moving on to the next panel, right? Because we have a panel of just all men, about 5 strong, hardworking, successful, healthy, positive men. I said, no, we got to bring that back, right? Because I think that you guys you guys gave me such great perspectives and insight, and I want to personally develop a better understanding about where you stand on these topics, right? I know some of you are married, single, in a relationship, and I'm looking forward to seeing what is the different views and truths based on your unique and individual circumstance, right? And so I want to start with Tammy. Now, Tammy, with submission, right? I know that you're married, right? And let me ask you a question. How long have you been married?
Well, July will be 10 years.
Okay, and how old are you?
35.
So okay, so you're 35 years old. You've been married 10 years. You got married young at 25. So in your relationship, what does submission mean to you in your marriage, and how do you exemplify that? Like, share that with us as a married young woman.
Well, I think for like the first few years in my marriage, it was hard because I wasn't really taught um, how to submit and why that's important in a marriage. So life taught me how to do it. But I think it is important to do because when you do it, I think there's a yin and a yang that happens there. Because I do believe that there are certain roles and things in relationships, and when a woman is submissive, it just allows a space. At least in my marriage, it allows a space for my husband to be masculine and a man and to make clear-headed decisions, whether he's right or wrong. At least he made a clear-headed decision, and it works out. It works out when I let him do that and not try to be controlling, because you can either have peace or be right all the time. And I want peace in my house, so I just let him do his thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
based on what you're saying, right? So when you say that he can make clear-headed decisions, so what you're insinuating or saying is that you feel like your submission empowers him in some type of way.
Yeah, I just think it gives him room to be a man and to hear the voice of God and not really hear me. Well, you should do this, and
Hmm.
I think you should do that, and I disagree with this. I think it's okay to disagree, and I think it's also okay to tell your husband you disagree. But I think it's also equally important to let him have that final say on like really important things. Like he can have let him have the final say, and if he's wrong, you guys will revisit it and figure it out. It's also important to not say, "See, I told you. I told you
Right.
should listen to me." Um, so yeah.
And I agree with that. Another question. So are you afraid of submission? Number one. And then number two, do you feel like submission makes you stronger in ways or weaker in ways? So those are two questions
Um,
I have.
so am I afraid of submission? I was at first because I felt like it was giving me up, right? It's giving up my voice because I feel strongly about this, and so I just felt like I was losing my independence when I did that. But um, it's just so important to do in a marriage because, like I said, there's like a yin and a yang in your marriage, and when you let a man be masculine and you be feminine, it just works out for the better. You know, you get what you want in the end, and so does he. And what was your second question? I'm sorry.
Well, does submission make you stronger in
Oh,
ways, or do you feel like does it make you weaker in
weaker.
ways,
I
or
think
both?
it
I
takes a
mean,
I think it takes a very strong woman to be submissive. I think you have to be very confident in yourself and confident in your marriage to to allow that to happen. And I think oftentimes we as women, well, let me speak for myself. I held on to my opinion so much because, like I said, I felt like I was losing my independence, therefore becoming weaker. And I didn't want to be weak. I wanted to be strong because that's what I was taught growing up. Um, but it takes a lot of strength to just let a man do what he does.
got it. And I have one more question before I move on to our panel, our team of
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, strong women. How has your submission to your husband did did it make him better? Is he more masculine? Is he more sensitive? Like, how did that? How does your submission impact him, and what does it do for him as a person as it pertains to how he treats you?
I think it brings peace to my husband when I submit to him. It brings him peace, and like I said, it just gives him room to make those decisions. I don't know if it makes him more masculine. I think it just allows him to have a clear mindset to hear God, to hear and to figure things out on his own because he's already a very masculine man. So I don't think I can take his masculinity away from being this alpha woman, but it just allows him to be who he is. And I love that. I love seeing that. It makes me proud to see.
Got it.
Hmm.
And I think that's important, right? And so now, Kristen, I got a question for you, Kristen. Right? On the last episode, right, you said that you were married before and you were too young, and you got out of things, and then you were in a relationship now. From your experience in the past, being married young, in what ways would you say that your submission was used against you in a negative way, and that being submissive hurt you in the past?
Um, so I could think of very specific examples where I felt like I let you blindly lead us and you led us into absolute hell. And that's scary when going back into the dating world because you do take some baggage with you. You do take some hurt with you. You do say, hey, I feel like I surrendered parts of me that I never wanted to surrender. And then exactly what I thought was the worst that could happen happened. Um, if I'm being honest, in retrospect, there were some things that I could have done differently because I've grown and I've healed since then. I know that nobody is perfect, but it's been a tough road talking about dating again because I don't have those same views on submission that I used to have. I just don't.
Okay. And so with that said, and that was actually the follow-up question. So do you feel as though because of the traumatic experiences of submitting, did it change uh, your view of what submission is, or did it change the kind of person you feel like you should submit to? Like, how did it change you as a woman?
Well, for one, it changed my definition of submission. So I think that we all kind of have it in our head that submission means to do what the other person says to do. And that's not that was my definition while I was married, and that's no longer my definition. So in my mind, I felt like, oh, I'm supposed to submit. I didn't even know what that meant. I just was like, oh, it's just gonna do what he says to do. I'm gonna follow, and that's not even what I think that it means now. So now I do think that I am submissive, but it's just not in that way. I feel like I have submitted all of I've opened up all my vulnerabilities in a way that I never have before. I feel like I am willing to do things that I was never open to before. Like I am more vulnerable. I'm not less vulnerable. I'm more vulnerable. I'm more open. I'm more like, to me, that is more of submission. It's not the definition that I used to have. I guess the definition has changed. Like the type of man hasn't necessarily changed. The definition, I guess, of submission has very much changed for me.
And if you could put it into your own words, like maybe a sentence or two, what is submission to you?
I'm not going to define it as this, but I do think that vulnerability is the major part of submission. That's the word that I would connect to it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so based on your experience, is what I think you're saying is that you remove the ideal of compliance or obedience out of submission. So that
I have removed that altogether.
So that's no longer a part of your definition.
The following, the submission, that's gone.
Got it. Okay. And so, in another question, because I want to incorporate, I want to get Tay and Ty involved, right? But another question that I have for you is, so when you say it's gone, right? That means you no longer believe that submission is something that a man needs in order to lead, provide, and protect.
I do not agree with that. I think that a man does not necessarily need me to follow.
Okay, it's hating on you again, Kristen. This was getting good too, right? And so while you're frozen, Ty, I got a question. Ty, I want to bring you in. And the reason I want to bring you in is just because last week, you shared just traumatic experiences dealing with either narcissists or men who had lied and just wasn't honest and transparent. Do you share the same or similar ideology to Kristen based on traumatic experiences of betrayal, disappointment, or do you differ from her in that way? You're muted, by the way. We can't hear you. Your phone is muted. Your audio is muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. In my opinion, I think that in a healthy relationship, there is no submission. I mean, the two people can express themselves mutually, voluntarily. I mean, they're to submit to. I mean, they're just kind of, they're coinciding and they're flowing together. So, I mean, I've never been married, so I've never had to be submissive. Yes, I've been in relationships. Was I submissive? Probably not, because I'm not in those relationships anymore. Do I think that a woman should be submissive in marriage? I think that she should, to a certain extent, as well as a husband should also be submissive, but not to the point where his masculinity is, taken down a notch or anything like that, or he feels disrespected. But again, I think that in a healthy relationship, the two people really shouldn't be, submissive. I mean, it's a healthy relationship, so you guys are coinciding and flowing together.
Okay, so now with that thought, right? With that said,
Mm-hmm.
when did you conclude that? Did you always believe that, or did you conclude that after being hurt?
You know, to be honest with you, probably I wasn't submissive I wasn't submissive in that relationship. That's probably why it was so much turmoil in that relationship. But again, I told you that my parents were married for 30 plus years, and I saw a healthy relationship. My mother wasn't submissive. My father wasn't submissive. They loved each other. They worked together. Their marriage, did what it needed to do. Not to say they had the perfect marriage or they never had any issue. There was not my dad standing over my mom like I'm the man of this house. You're my wife, and you need to do as you're told. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. They just worked well together and flowed together very well.
Okay, so basically you're saying from your experience, you never saw examples of submission, and you never felt like submission was important in a relationship, and so you never submitted.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess that is what I'm saying. I mean, again, I'm not saying that my mother didn't follow my dad's lead, because she did, but it wasn't just one of those situations where my dad was like, I'm the king of the castle. You have to do as I say. You have to do this, and you have to. It wasn't like that. That's not what I saw.
Okay, so
and not even in my grandparents. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So you're saying he led, but it wasn't in an abusive or exploitative, like he didn't exploit her.
Exactly.
Okay, and you're saying she followed, but it wasn't in a controlling way. It was more. It was healthy, is what you're saying as well.
That's what I'm saying. In a healthy relationship, you're really not necessarily being submissive. You guys flow together. Y'all come together as one, and you guys are able to do things, communicate, get things done, because y'all work together. Y'all listen to each other's ideals and things like that, and have a discussion and see what's best for the relationship.
Got it. And so
that's what I saw.
Got it. And so it's interesting what you're saying, Ty, because a lot of times, like even with Kristen shares a similar perspective, right? But when you say to yourself, either because of whatever the case, experience or childhood, if you say I don't believe in submission, or if you say there's no need for submission, then there's no need for leadership, right? Like you can't attract a leader, or a man can't lead someone who doesn't follow, right? And so, or someone who doesn't submit. So, this is interesting too, because one of the things that, like me, I got 7 sisters, right? My mom is strong, very independent, right? I got hundreds of friends all over the country, and then I've been in relationships myself, right? One of the things that I realized, right, with dealing with this thought process and perspective, is that women who, because of experiences, don't believe in submission, that they attract men who don't have the capacity or the strength to actually lead them. And
now that part I agree with you on, about the men not having the capacity to be lead, to lead, because as Kristen stated, she allowed her, whomever to lead, and the worst possible thing happened.
Absolutely. So. And then Tay, I want to ask you a question, Tay, right? And so when you hear the 3 different examples, you hear Tammy, she loves submission. She believes submission empowers her husband, right? And then you hear Kristen said, well, I used to love the ideal of submission, but I was taken advantage of, and it was blind. I no longer believe in it, right? So that's 2 different extremes, right? Then you have Ty. Ty said, well, he leads to an extent, but I wouldn't qualify that submission. And the woman should follow to an extent, but it's not really in a negative way. So she's like in the middle of both, right? Where do you fall in that spectrum based on your personal experience and based on who you are today?
I would probably lean more towards Tammy and her ideals and her thinking, because she, in her marriage and what works in her marriage. I've seen both sides of it. I have a parent who's married and his wife submits to him. And then I have my mom, who is very much a dominant, headstrong woman who's not going to let sometimes is not going to let any man lead her. So I see both sides, and I see what works and what doesn't work. When I look at my dad, married for 25 plus years to his wife, but they're a little bit different than us here in America, but still that it works in their marriage. So I may lean towards what Tammy's ideal is, and making sure that when I do get married, let my husband be the man and lead the family, and uplifting him and making him stronger, because at the end of the day, that's going to make the family stronger.
Got it. And have you ever been hurt before by a man in a relationship?
I have. I mean, I've been hurt by men before, of course, but I wasn't submitting to that man. I feel like that man in particular wasn't strong enough to lead me. So I'm not going to submit to a man that's not strong enough to lead me.
Got it. Okay. And and are you, just based on who you are now, are you willing to entertain or get to know a man that doesn't meet your definition of leadership or being strong enough to lead you?
Not at this point, no.
It.
I'm telling, like, for me to be able to submit to you as a man, if you're not strong and not confident and not sure who you are in your decisions, I'm not going to submit to you. There's no way I'm going to give you that control.
Got it. All right. And I appreciate that feedback. And I want to talk to all of you about this, and you guys can chime in, at any point that you want. Right. So now it's interesting, right? Because all of you have had similar different experiences, right? All of you had said, I've been hurt, and my hurt, or you said, my childhood, how I was raised or what I saw. You all have, to a degree, expressed how your life plays into your definition of submission or not submitting. Another thing, right? All of you subscribe to Christianity. You say, I love God. I want him to bless me, right? I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. Now, how would you honestly, and I'll just ask you, I mean, all of you can chime in, right? But I think this question would be really suited for like Kristen and maybe Ty, right? As Christian women, how does your philosophy of submission align with your religious belief? Because the Bible says to submit to your husband, right? And it's so many scriptures from Genesis to Revelation that says, wives, submit to your husband. And so if you're saying that I'm a Christian, I love God, and I want him to bless my relationship, but if you're saying I don't want to submit, I don't believe in that, Kristen, what's your stance on that? How do you deal with that?
Okay, so again, I think it's the definition for me. I just don't believe that submission means walking behind my husband wherever he is. That's more so what I feel. I don't necessarily think that the idea does not exist. I just don't feel like I have the same definition that a lot of other women have. And this phrase comes to mind that I posted before a long time ago on social media, and it says, what messes us up the most in life is the idea of what we think things should be. So it's really and truly everyone else's expectations that make it seem like, oh, Kristen is she just wild and free and just do whatever she want to do. She would not submit to anybody if her life depended on it. And it's not that. You know what I mean? It's just like my definition is just not this person that follows behind someone. I'm definitely not going to keep my opinions to myself to keep the peace. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that because it's different now. I got 3 kids that are following behind me, and I'm not letting anybody lead all 4 of us into the wilderness. I can't do that. That's my responsibility for them. So basically, what I'm saying is it's not that I don't believe in the idea of submission. I just don't believe that submission is what people think that it looks like. I don't have the same definition that other people have.
Okay, and speaking on definition, as a Christian woman, what is God's definition on submission?
Here's the thing. I did not know when I got married. I just thought it was what everybody told me that it was. And everybody includes pastors, family, whoever, the preacher, the teacher, whomever. If I'm going to be honest, I really don't even know that I personally have a clear definition of submission, if I'm going to be totally honest. But I also think that nobody really does. I think that so many people take the Bible and for so many different interpretations. And if I got to be honest, I do not know what God's actual definition of it is. I just know where I am with it.
Right. And I think that's, first of all, I really respect you. And I'm going to tell you why, because you're honest and you're being transparent. And it does take strength to say, although I'm a Christian woman, I'm not even really too sure on what the God that I believe says about his expectation of my attitude about submission. And then I also hear what you said about other people's opinions, perspectives, and interpretations about submission. So I'll give you a scripture, Ephesians 5:22, right? And this is just for you because we talked about God's definition. And I want to know how you interpret and how you define this and what it means to you, right? It says, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. So it says the way you submit to God is how he wants you to submit to your husband. Now, forget what anybody else could say. If you as a Christian woman read that, how would you apply that how would you interpret that in your own relationship?
I would interpret it like basically with the word that I used earlier, vulnerability. I very much believe that vulnerability is the birthplace of love. Nothing can happen without it on both sides. And I have always believed, I told you I grew up very, very, very conservative Christian, like AME. That's extremely conservative in the Black community as far as Christianity goes. And I knew, hey, I can't get on my knees and pray and start lying to God. You got to be vulnerable. I can't go to church and close my ears and my eyes because that's just not how it works. You have to be open. You have to be vulnerable, and vulnerability gets you to where you need to be. And that's how I feel about it. I feel like if you are vulnerable with anybody, that is submitting yourself in the way that you submit to God. That's the word. That's the main word that I could use. Like I can't think of any other word to describe.
I got you.
What it is that I feel about vulnerability.
And I want to be honest with you. Vulnerability and submit is two different words.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
And also being honest with you, one of the things you said is about people making up their own interpretations and putting it on others, right? And so what it sounds like is that's what you're doing. It sounds like you have your own ideal of submission that you're comfortable with, right? And that
I agree
that you've created for your own safety, and that's what you're making as law. For example, the definition of submission is to accept or yield to a superior force or to the authority or will of another person. So whether it's the Bible or it's our own language, submission means to surrender to authority or the will of another person, right? It's not just being vulnerable. Yes, you have to be willing to be vulnerable in order to submit, right? But vulnerability and being submissive is two different things. And so now that you know what your Bible says about submission, and now that you know what the actual literal definition of submission is, do you now say, okay, I agree, and that's something I'm working towards, or no matter what the definition says, no matter what God said, this is what I'm doing for me? What do you say about that?
I am going to say that I agree that vulnerability and submission are two different things. I agree that I did kind of give myself my own safe definition of it, but I am not going to agree to, I will agree to yield, but I'm not going to agree to none of the rest of it.
Got it. And now Ty, you know, it's inner, because I can tell you smart. You listen, I can see you smiling like I'm like Ty smart, right? And you know, and I want to ask the same question, right? And it's the same thing that I shared with Kristen. You subscribe to Christianity, like women who don't subscribe to Christianity, I talk to them about other aspects on how submission is healthy and how it works. But as a Christian woman, if you know that the God that you say you serve wants you to submit to your husband, right? And then you know what submission means, do you disagree with what your religion says in the definition and choose to subscribe to your own idea, similar to Kristen, or
I don't. Go
it
ahead.
was breaking
I'm
up?
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't disagree with what the Bible says, but I also believe that we don't have the whole entire Bible. I do believe that there are pieces and sections and chapters of the Bible missing. So I think that there's probably a lot more that we could learn about submission from the Bible. But again, I don't believe that we have the whole Bible. I believe what the Bible says about submission. But again, I'm single, so I'm not concerned with submitting to anyone.
Got it. And so now two things. One, although let's assume it's completely true that the Bible is missing parts, and that could be true, that you would still be responsible.
I mean, I believe it. I believe
right.
it, you know?
And let's say that's your reality. I'm sure you would agree that you would still be responsible to apply the parts that you do have access to and that you do know, right? And so,
Yeah,
so even if it's
I
missing,
do.
right. And so that's the first. The second thing is, as a single woman, right? It's like I'll use me as an example. I'm a single man, so the way I qualify to be a husband is if I develop my leadership, my provision, and my protection while I'm single. So I don't sign up to be a husband like trial and error. When I'm in a relationship, my wife that I choose is going to benefit from how I developed myself as a leader before I met her, as a provider before I got into a relationship with her, and as a protector having nothing to do with her, right? And so likewise with submission, would you agree that submission is not something that you subscribe to after you're in a relationship? That is something that you subscribe to internally before you get into a relationship, and you reserve it for the right person?
I'll be out. I think that I think it's there. I think that I have the ability to submit. I'm not going to say that I don't, but I think that I just haven't run across that particular gentleman that God has for me that makes that submission come out to where I feel that I need to submit. But again, like I said last week, to me, and where at the point where I'm at in my life right now, marriage is not the end all be all for life. Okay. So because I'm not married, submission again is not a big thing for me. Now, do I submit like that? So I can use this. Do I submit at work? Yes, because I want my paycheck every other week and things like that. So yes, I have the ability to submit. I do.
Absolutely.
But because again, I'm a single woman that dates, I'm not submitting, and that's just that. That's all.
You know,
I mean,
and I understand that.
I mean,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And it's just, you know, I'm just an alpha female, which, you know, may potentially work against me as far as where I could find true love. And I've just kind of, you know, thought about it, like maybe my strong personality and my beliefs on how I want things for my life and how I want my relationship or marriage to be, again, me.
Got it. And and one thing that I think, right, I don't think that your strong personality is a problem. I don't think that, right? Like even in talking to you today and last week, you're respectful, right? You're careful not to cut me off. You don't want to offend me. You know what I'm saying? Like I just think that when with your personality, as long as you can respect the person and appreciate their quality, I think then that's based off what I see. I think that you will more so naturally play your part or play your position if the person is respectable. I got a question though, Tay. This is really for Tay and Tammy, right? Now, Tay and Tammy, and you can really bring everybody back in. You can bring everybody back in. Tay and Tammy. Now, Tammy, do you think that from a woman's or for women, right? For women on behalf of women, can you bring Tammy back in? Bring Tammy in. All right. And so now Tammy and Tay, do you think that okay, so when talking about submission, right? Do you think that submission is something that you have to practice, as a single individual before you get into a relationship? Or do you think submission is something you reserve for a relationship or the right type of relationship? Like what do you think about that?
I'm not gonna submit like to every man that I meet. I don't know what you mean, like practice.
Okay, so in your relationship, when do you start submitting?
I think it's a little bit more commitment has to come into the relationship, and then I will practice submission. I'm like, if we're dating right off the bat, I'm probably not going to put all my trust and yield to you right away. As the relationship progresses and develops, then I will start to practice it a little bit more.
Got it. So you need more commitment.
Yes.
Now, so is marriage, like Ty said, that marriage is not the end all be all for her, right? So that means it depends. Is marriage the end all be all for you? Do you share that, or do you share that perspective with Ty?
I share it with Ty because I'm not married yet. I'm 35, so not saying it won't ever happen. If it will happen, hopefully. If it does not happen, then I'm going to enjoy my life.
Got it. Now, Tammy, I got a question for you, because the attitude that you're communicating, right? I hear you honor your husband, you respect his masculinity, you want him to take the lead, you want to follow him, right? It sounds like you benefit from his protection. You even said I love it. When you say I love that, you even like, you shrugged a little bit. I just love that. Right. And so the attitude that you have about your husband and your marriage, did you get that from him, or did you have that attitude before you met him?
I think I had a little bit of it. And like I said, when we first got married, I had this personality that, this is who I am. This is what I want. I'm not really willing to bend that. But he's an alpha, and he's like, it is what it is. I'm not backing down from this. So, I mean, we can't have two bulls in a relationship. So naturally, I just kind of fell into where I feel like I'm supposed to be in my marriage. And I let him be that man and have that masculine energy, because I feel like that's what I had. I had like a lot of masculine energy, and it was, number one, a turn off for him. He didn't like it at all. And it made me feel very uncomfortable and just tense and mad and angry. And I think it was because that's not where I'm supposed to be. That's not really my place in my marriage. That wasn't the energy I was supposed to have. And so when I let that go, it just, like I said, a yin and a yang, it just worked out beautifully. So like seeing him in all his masculinity and me in my femininity, it's nice and it's comfortable. And I like letting him lead because it's too much for me to just take all of that on myself as a woman. I am a nurturer. I am a lover. I am emotional. So to have all of that plus, have to make all these decisions in the marriage that is naturally his thing, it's a lot. So,
Got it. And let me ask you this too. And I'm asking you because I think that, well, I'll say it this way. So one of the things that I believe, right, is that in order to have what you want, you have to become that thing, or you have to become what qualifies for that thing, right?
yes.
I don't believe, like, again, some people call it the law of attraction. Like the Bible says, whatsoever a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And one of the things is, it's like for me as a man, I'm developing myself and putting a lot of work into my character, my attitude, my temperament, my self-control, how I listen, me being sensitive or affectionate, responsible. I'm developing myself, right, as a single individual, because I believe that my preparation is going to qualify for me something better later when it's my time, right?
Yeah.
And so so you have something. You have an attitude and a way of thinking that alpha men are attracted to, and then you have a husband, which would be the manifestation of your way of thinking and your attitude. So do you think that women who don't believe in submission, or skeptical or hesitant to submit, or who are outwardly against submission, do you, according to your belief and how you understand, do you think that women who refuse to submit or don't want to, do you think they will ever have that type of husband to lead them the way that you believe that your husband is leading you?
I just don't know if I don't know that an alpha would go for that, because an alpha needs to be an alpha all by himself. You can't have two alphas. I don't think you can. I don't think that'll work. I just don't think it'll work. But I mean, that's my opinion. I had to let him lead, and I think also submission may have like this negative connotation, like I'm just in the background, like, oh, okay, we can go over here. Oh, okay, let's go over here. Oh, sit. Oh, okay, let me sit. It's not that. It's not that at all. It is when it comes down to it. For instance, we had kind of a disagreement earlier this week, me and my husband, about education and maybe pulling my son from public school and possibly putting him into like a private school, just because I don't feel like he's getting enough where he is. And that's where I was. And he was like, no, let's wait this out. Let's see, let's practice something else with him. Let's work on homework or whatever with him in a different way and see how that works. But for me, naturally, I'm like, no, we need to, I think we need to pull them, and I didn't say that, but that's how I felt. So instead of saying those things, I just let him say, okay, I just went along with what he said. And after I calmed down, I felt like that was the right decision, because a few days later, the teacher is raving about how well he's doing already. You know what I mean? So I let him make that decision, even though I was completely against it, but it worked out. So
And that's a strong point. Ty made a good point earlier, right? Ty, she said that, and I disagree with the way she said it, but I agree with the principle of what she was communicating, right? And Ty, what you said was important. You said the man should submit to the woman too, right? Now, I'll tell you, I disagree that a man should submit because of our masculine nature, right? But I do agree that a masculine man who is secure in his identity will listen to the direction and advice of a woman, right? Like me, for example, even in my last relationships that didn't work, When I was in my relationships and the woman was stronger than me at something, I said, okay, you got that. You do that. You tell me, let me know what you want me to do with that. Let me know this. And that's what I'm going to do. I don't even want to question it because that's your strength. I don't want to dominate a woman in an area where you're better than me. So I think two things. One, I think that healthy masculinity looks for leadership in a woman, leadership qualities, right? A woman that we can trust and rely on her judgment in different situations. I think unhealthy masculinity wants to rule everything and minimize a woman's input value. And I think that unhealthy masculinity is what essentially a lot of our women, especially our Black women, has experienced: unhealthy, uncontrolled, undisciplined, underdeveloped masculinity, right? And I agree, Ty, with you, and that's a great point. And I think most men that I know who are healthy, they look for strong women. That's why I said your personality, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a great thing because you're strong. See, men, right? Men, healthy men look for women who, if they died, for example, unexpectedly or prematurely, can lead the family, right? So we don't want just a woman who's like a puppet. We want a woman who's still a leader. Now, before I go to you, Kristen, you also said something, Tammy, right? You said, I disagree with the decision, but I let him make it.
Yeah.
And although it didn't make sense to me, and then you said, I calmed down. Not only did I realize it was the right decision, but the results, the teachers were raving and said, my child is doing better than he was before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means that had you had disagreed with him and put your foot down and said, because this makes sense to me based on all my development and logic, this is what we're going to do with my child, no matter what you said, that what that means is that your son would be doing worse than what he's doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, because if he's doing better than what he was before, then there would have been no progress had your decision been the end all be all. Now, Kristen, right? I'm coming to you because when Tammy said that, I saw you like, well, what you mean you ain't say nothing, So my question to you is, when you see a married woman, right, who explains what submission is to her husband, who's leading, providing, and protecting her, and he made a decision that she disagreed with that worked out for the best interest of their son, why does that bother you? Oh, you're muted. You're muted, by the way. You're muted. Okay. I, I saw that too. I saw that on social media. I was like, that's crazy. Right. Okay. Go ahead, Tammy.
Okay. A couple things. I don't think that masculinity also means boisterous and loud, because my husband is not that at all. He does have a presence that is, you just listen, because he commands that from you, because he is a man who's very confident in himself. He's not loud at all. He's the guy that is chilling in the background. You may not even see him because he's just that quiet. But he says what he means, and he means what he says. And number two, yes, he could have done very well if we had taken him to private school, but private school ain't cheap. Private school is like, they want 50 grand of your money. You know what I'm saying? So it was a win all the way around. And he was looking at it in a clear-headed space because I allowed for him to, and he was able to look at it from all these different areas versus me making an emotional decision. And then that's throwing finances all the way off, you know? So it worked all the way out. I'm not saying that he couldn't have done well either way. He could have, but it was just a better decision.
No,
Oh,
y'all can't hear us.
can they hear me?
Can I think
Oh,
I heard everything. I heard everything you said, Kristen. Yeah, I heard everything. I don't know.
no, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. I know. And also, for me, I don't believe there is a negative masculine energy and a positive masculine energy. I think masculine in itself is just a positive thing, and feminine is also a positive thing. I think there are men who are crazy and may have like a lot of trauma, but I don't think they're operating in their masculine energy. And the same could be true for a woman. I don't think that's, this loud, crazy woman who is just, obnoxious. I don't think that's feminine. That's not feminine at all. And I don't think that's a negative feminine energy. I just think her energy is just off.
Right.
So
no, I understand that. And a question for Ty, Tay, and then Kristen as well, right? And and now Ty and Tay, you're single. Kristen, you're in a relationship, and who? Well, first Kristen, I guess, right? Kristen. So in your relationship, who is the stronger individual? Is it you or your partner? And I know that's broad. And I know, but who is who's the decision maker in your relationship, and who's more susceptible to submit to the expectation or direction of the other person?
We can hear you though. We can
Yeah,
hear
we can
you.
hear you. I don't know
But
why.
I don't know why they can't hear you.
So the chat can't hear her?
Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, join. Just join from your phone. And I'll ask them questions. Right. And so with Tay and Ty, right, being single. So, and I want to know, like, right, like even in like, because last week, I know Ty, you said you was emotionally unavailable, but then you also said it could change tomorrow. It's how I feel, right? He was like, it's how I feel at the time, and then Tay, you're also saying, Tay, that you I'm not sure where you stand with your goal of dating, or like what's your ultimate goal, because you also said if I don't, I don't, if I do, I do. Right? What kind of man, Ty and Tay, are you actually looking for?
I don't know, because I'm not necessarily looking for anyone right now.
So you're not looking for one, you let them find you.
I'm not saying that either, but me right now at this moment, I'm not necessarily looking for anyone. I'm not just out there like, oh, you know, I need to go to these places to find Mr. Such and such. No, that's not what I'm
Right.
doing. So
you're not looking
I
for a
don't know.
relationship, but you said you date, and dating
Date.
to you
It's just a
consists
date.
of
It's just a date. Just
right.
a date.
Can
And
y'all
so
hear me?
we can
Yes,
hear
we
you, but
can.
they still. I'm not sure if the chat can hear you.
Okay.
And so, Ty, when you say just a date, right? So now in your dating, right, is hanging out, kicking it. Is sex included in your dating? If that's what you choose.
No. If I choose to, but
If you
no, not
choose to.
necessarily.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so now,
but if I choose, I mean, go ahead.
no. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I want you to answer that.
Okay, I can be heard now. Sorry,
Yes,
go
ma'am,
ahead.
I can hear you now. Oh Lord, we thank God.
So my body, I feel is a temple, and I don't just go freely and give sex. I don't screw people that I'm just casually dating. And that
Right.
may have
Okay.
been the wrong word, but I don't go just freely have sex with people I'm dating.
Got it. So it has to
Now,
be.
if your question, go ahead.
No. I want you to finish. Go ahead. Say it again.
I said, now, if the question is, am I an adult that have sex? Of course.
Got it. Okay. And I really want to understand. So you don't just casually have sex. You have to be dating a
Somebody said,
person.
"Oh, word."
Oh my gosh.
So,
Yes,
no.
y'all buying the drinks. She got somebody else. Come on.
So I want to understand you, because I hear you saying things, right? So you're saying that you don't just casually have sex, that you do date, and you have to be dating that person for a period of time before you have sex with them, like a certain period of time.
No, I mean, I've dated. There are people that I date. I've been dating for a couple of years. We're cool.
Okay, I got it.
We're not date. We're not. The relationship that we have does not consist of sex. Everybody
Right.
that you go out with, you don't necessarily have to sleep with. You
Right.
know, again, I'm not saying that I'm a virgin, but of course not, because I have a child. But I'm not just freely giving my body, you know.
Right.
And just because we go out on a date or two, or we date for 6 months, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm comfortable enough to, have sex.
And I agree with that, right? And I'm gonna tell you why I'm asking this question. I because women, from my experience, who subscribe to just dating or dating multiple people at once, most women say the same thing. They say you don't have to have sex with everybody you date. The thing is, us as men, we're not going to date you for an extended period of time, for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, spending money, spending time, if you're not going to have sex with us, right? That's how we are, right? Men are not going to invest time and resources, most men, if you're not going to have sex with them, right? And so my question, to you is, how, relationship, right? Is that something that you just don't want at all, and you just want to enjoy dating? That's what I want to know.
So that we're crystal clear, so that you really understand what I'm saying. At this point in my life, I'm not interested in a full-fledged relationship. I have other things that I feel are more important or more pertinent or more at the forefront of my life than being tied up in a relationship right now. I cannot give someone my undivided attention at this point. So therefore, I'm not emotionally available. To be in a relationship, you have to be emotionally available. And if I'm not emotionally available and you start nagging me and getting on my nerves, that makes me be really mean to you. And then I start cursing you and being the young lady that's definitely not going to be submissive and being mean to you. So, I'll cut you off really quick.
That makes sense to me. Now, Tay, let me ask you this question. Same line of questioning that I have for Ty. So, are you willing? Are you, number one, are you emotionally available? And number two, are you willing to involve yourself with a man sexually if it's not leading to a relationship?
Am I willing and open for a relationship? Yes. Am I open to having sex with somebody and it's not leading to a relationship? I mean, I hope my grandma ain't on here.
You can keep it real. I mean,
it kind of like a little bit of what Ty was saying. I might go on dates with men, but I do have somebody that I can call if I need to get my itch scratched.
Yeah, you need to get your rocks off.
It's not leading to a relationship, but if I have to get my itch scratched, that's what I'm gonna call.
Right. And this is why I asked. And
I respect that now.
Listen,
you tell your grandma to go to bed.
Go to sleep, grandma. Night, grandma. No, and I respect that. I respect your transparency, is what I'll say. This is why I asked, though, right? Because Kristen, you asked me last week, where's all these good men at? Right? You said, where's all, you act like we just got all these options and it's just, good men, leaders, providers, protectors, men who are emotionally mature, and and they, from all the good men I know, we are looking for marriage, if not today, at some point, and we're looking for a certain type of woman with a certain type of philosophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so good men, it's almost like if I say, hey, if you tell me you want a red Mercedes Benz, well, that's what if you want a red Mercedes Benz, right? If you determine in your mind when you walk out the house and you start driving, all of a sudden you're gonna start seeing your car everywhere. Like, they got my car. That's my car. They got my car. Like, how everybody got my car? So you get what you're looking for, right? And so what I don't understand is if women are saying that that they want a good man, right? Why don't women subscribe to the characteristics that good men prefer? Like me, for example.
I'm going to tell you exactly why.
Okay, go ahead, Kristen.
Number one, there are way too many self-proclaimed good men. Out of if you have 100 men, if I'm in the room with 100 men that are like, hey, y'all want these thugs and I am a good man. If you got 100 of them in one room, it's literally probably 6 of them that are actual good men. And I'm saying that to say so many, I'm not just talking about men, but so many people really do think that they are better people than they actually are because they may know their intentions. I don't know your intentions, sir. You might have not intended to hurt me when you cheated on me with my sister, or so like, oh, I didn't intend to hurt you. I would never do that. It's like, hey, that doesn't mean anything to me. But you can't go around calling yourself a good person and you don't pay child support. You don't do right by your mom. You cuss out people in traffic if they cut you off, or whatever, your definition is. It's like way too many men think they're good men and they not, or not even good, not good men. They're just not good for everyone.
And I agree. That's a strong point, and that's a great point, right? And this is what, and help me understand this, because if I'm talking to a woman, right, after maybe 2 or 3 conversations, I know, not even having to date her, after a few conversations, I know if we're suitable, compatible, if she's worth my time, if I can have a perspective of her temperament, her character, just on 2 to 3 conversations. And based off those conversations, I can understand the likelihood of a successful relationship. So as a woman, I would think women are more emotionally mature and intellectually smarter than men in some different ways. How is it that as a woman in a few conversations, you can't tell the character of a man and his potential?
I can, but I'm gonna tell you why I can't. I can, because
So you can.
I'm healed. I'm in a whole different place than a lot of women that are. See, the thing is, you said that we should speak what we want, but there are so many women that say, I want to be married, and then they leave with that. And because you're looking for that, there are other things that you're not looking for. So some of my friends can be talking to some men, and I'm like you, one conversation, like, hey sis, it's not gonna work. I can. It just depends, I guess, on who you are and what you've been through. But you asked me earlier, like before y'all couldn't hear me, you asked me like, hey, who leads in my relationship, and who, it was
Right.
like a two-part question.
Right.
Um, I feel like I found a situation where I can have opinions, and I don't feel like anybody is overbearingly dominating the other person, if that makes sense. There are just some days, some things that I need more of. There are just some days, some things that he needs more of. And I just think it's really healthy to go by that, like who needs what at the time, or what situation works best at the time, rather than, hey, if it come down to it, you get to decide. And because we feel that way, we just really don't run into that many situations where we have to decide.
Right. No, and I really love that you said that. See, there's there's all men are different, and I think that all women are different, which is why I ask so many questions. I think that there's a man for every woman. There's a temperament, a personality. I don't
Absolutely.
think like I could just say all men are like this. No, some men who may have more masculinity might be for a more submissive woman. But I don't think even submission can just be summed up into just one thing. I think
Agreed.
women have
I agree
different
with that.
personalities where they express their willingness to submit in different ways. So I just think we're just, just different personalities fit for different people, And
I
so,
agree.
and one of the things, right, that I want to ask, because we can go on about this forever, right? Is gender roles. Now, in a relationship, right? What is your uh, opinion or feeling or perspective about gender roles in relationships? Is it triggering? Do you subscribe to it? Like, what is your outlook on gender roles in a relationship?
It's not triggering for me. I mean, I'm willing to have conversations about it. I Gender roles though, like men do this, women do this. I think there is still some truth behind that, but I think it's different in every relationship. I don't think it's the same in every relationship.
So when men say a woman's supposed to cook, supposed to clean, when men say things like that, right?
Mhm.
And when we essentially say that that's what your job as a woman, to cook and to clean
Mhm.
and to nurture the kids, is that
Yeah.
true, or do you disagree?
I think I think there are a lot of women who still do that, but they're stay-at-home moms. So you make enough to take care of all of us and I don't have to go to work. So yeah, and that works out perfectly for them. But for the couples who, both people work, you know, people are gonna have to take up slack. It's not just gonna be me cooking and cleaning. Like you're gonna have to do that too if I need to work.
Got it. And
Yeah,
Tay,
I firmly believe that every man that I've dated found a way to eat 3 times a day before he met me. And with that said, I also found a way to pay all of my bills before I met him. So I don't I don't I don't subscribe to 50-50 at all, because like I said, some people need more of something at some points, and some people need, right now I feel like I am so fulfilled that I can give everything to anybody, to everybody, financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, but there are gonna be some days that I do not feel like that. You know what I mean? Like if I feel like cooking, I'm gonna cook 5 times a day. If I don't, I might not cook that week. I might be in a slump, just as long as I'm with somebody that can pick up where I leave off, I'm going to pick up where they leave off every single time. Now, I'm not
So
going to change nobody's carburetor or nothing, but when it comes to those things, within reason, I'm going to do what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
so someone put in the chat, marriage is about compromise and not predicated on my sister, and not predicated on gender.
Okay, and that's a strong point.
And she's a preacher's wife. She's a first lady, so she's all about
Right.
she's all about marriage and all that good stuff. And she definitely, tells me, Ty, if you decide to get married, you're gonna need to probably do this and maybe be that way. And then I'd be like, girl, shut up. I got this.
Yeah. It's like Tammy said, if I've been at work all day just like you, hey,
I'm not cooking
some stuff.
I'm not,
And I think, and here's the thing, I think sometimes as men, I think we want to define what your role should be without understanding how you feel, right? And so what you just said, Kristen, if you came into a friendship and then a relationship and you said, listen, if you say what you just said, I feel like I can give my all to you. I feel like I'm spiritually in a good place financially, and I'm willing to go above and beyond for you. But I want you to understand that when I ain't feeling it and this and then boom, I need you to pick up. I don't think men would have a problem with that because you're communicating your truth and your transparency. You're saying I'm willing, but I'm human. And I think a lot of times is that I think as men, we've never established a healthy communication culture or environment. And a lot of times women, you guys are willing to do a lot of things that we don't understand, but because either you're not communicating or we're not communicating right, or a combination of both, we never create that culture, right? And that's why I want to even here, one of my goals was, again, to create a healthy communication culture between men and women so we can understand. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you or you're going to agree with me, but as long as you are acknowledged and heard, I think that's the foundation of growth, right? And so now I got a question, right? Tay, because you smirked a couple of times at different points. And so I want to know, what is your attitude about gender roles, about a man telling you that this is what I expect a woman to do X, Y, and Z? Like, do you automatically subscribe to that, or you have some resistance against that?
I don't have any resistance to it. There's certain things that I like to do that are gender specific. I like to cook. I like to clean. I don't have a problem with it. It's not triggering to me. I'm like, Kristen, I'm not going to go change no carburetor. I'm not changing the air filter. I'm not cutting the grass. I don't like taking the trash out, and I don't like putting gas in my car. Those are things I feel like my husband should be doing if I'm married. So gender roles do not trigger me at all.
Absolutely. And then Tammy, what is your definition, if you have a definition, of a real man?
A real man. I think all men are real men,
Okay.
biologically, but a good man. Maybe, is that a question? Maybe can I answer that?
You can answer it how you want. Absolutely, yes.
A good man. I think a good man provides for his family, protects his family, and is a pretty good communicator. Can communicate what's going on and situations. I think it's very basic. I don't think it's a lot. I think a good man is honest, loyal, loves his wife and his family, all of those good things. But I don't think a good man also equates to a perfect man. I think good men have a lot of faults too, and a lot of flaws, if you will. So I think that's very important to keep in mind, but to also not put those flaws on the pedestal and make those things way bigger than what they actually are, because
Right.
we all have flaws.
And I got one more question for you too. So do you love your husband beyond the role that he plays in your life, or all the roles? Like, do you love him beyond what he does for you? And
Oh,
if so, help me understand how you love him beyond what he does for you.
yeah, I believe I do. I mean, when we first got married, we didn't have anything. We were poor. Um, so I think, that goes to show something. But I mean, we've also gone through a lot of stuff in our marriage. And, if I was just here for what he can do for me, I would have pieced out at that point, at any of those points. So, but I'm still here because I know his heart. You have to, I mean, I'm able to see through all of that, and I can see his heart, and I know what he means when he says it. And, it is beyond what he can do for me, because he wasn't ever able to do anything for me for a long time.
Right. And I respect that. The reason I ask is because as men, right, as black men, right, one of the things that we feel, and we actually say it, is that we don't, for the most part, we don't feel a lot of times like women love us beyond the role that they subscribe to us, and
Yeah.
and as a man, right, I think that's important, but a lot of times men, we don't really feel real love because we feel like we have to, like every man says, I want to lead, provide, and protect. Even if you toxic or not, we all want to do that. But it's like the same way women can unsubscribe to gender roles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obligations for the man and still have value within themselves. It's like, why doesn't society allow men to have value? Black men, why can't, and black women in society, right? I'm speaking for men. This is not necessarily how I feel, but I felt this way, and I know black men feel this way. Why can't we be valued and be loved beyond roles that we feel for you? Like, why we can't be loved unconditionally? Why can't we be loved unconditionally? And this is
I
for all
think
of you guys. It's for all of you ladies.
I think a lot of us were just taught to go for the man who is wealthy, and even if it wasn't us, we know a lot of people who have gone for like the strongest, the most successful, the top tier guy, because we think that it's going to be an easy life, so why not go for that if you can get it? But I think the dark side of that, going for that guy, is that those men tend to have a lot of women thrown at them, and get cheated on a lot. But some women don't even care about that too, especially nowadays. Like, women just want, a lot of women
So,
want money.
Ty?
Keith, you keep saying you've said unconditional. What do you consider as unconditional love?
No
That's a
condition.
great question. That's a okay.
No, I mean, I
So,
want to know what your,
I'm gonna answer you personally for me. That's what you want, right?
yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer you personally for me, right? So,
Okay.
one of the challenges, or one of my biggest desires, right, is I want friendship. And what led me to desire friendship, I looked at my past relationships, and I dated some dope women, some accomplished women, some established women, right? And then what happened was, in those, the reason why some of my past relationships, or all of them, failed, is because there was no real friendship for real. And after some left me, some I left, and after I assessed and evaluated my past, I'm like, man, I should have never even dated her. We should have been just dope business partners, great friends. I started like assessing my relationships. Half of them I should have never gotten because they're great women and they're strong women. And our relationship, it just messed up. Like I was underdeveloped in certain ways, she was underdeveloped in certain ways, and we put our brokenness in different ways on each other. And then you start hating people you loved at one point in time, right? So I was like, moving forward out of that, I said, for me, I need to make real friendship a requirement, like something that I desire the most, right? And not about how much money I had, or not about what cars I drove, or not about the business I owned, right? Because to some people, to some women, I represent security, right? I'm a good communicator. I'm a good listener, right? I'm affectionate. And so some women can look at me and say, okay, well, you have this and you have that, and you have that. Like, and Chris, you said, well, why aren't you in a relationship? And that, like, and I don't think that relationship should just be about what I could bring to it or what can be extracted from me. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, Ty, just trying to really home in on your question, like, who is going to love me for my attitude and my character, right? And who can I love for her attitude and her character? Not a role that she can fill, not if she can make me look better. Like, who can I be compatible with and have children with, to raise a family with? Like, because other things wear off, like sex. Like, how much sex we gonna have? Like, we ain't gonna have how much sex we
A
really gonna
lot.
have.
Look,
Okay, you itch.
come on, itch.
Well,
A
well,
whole lot.
She's like, a lot of sex. Let me just a lot of that. Like, but I agree. It should be a lot of sex, right? But that's even funny that you said it, because I studied this, right? The average human being spent 1% of their life having sex. 1%. So that means 99% of the relationship is spent on everything else. So so when I say unconditional tie, I'm like, I know what I want in a woman, but I want a woman who has character, who can be my friend. I can trust friendship, right? I want a woman who I can love like how God loved me. I want a woman who could submit to me like how I submit to God. I want a woman who I can lead in my strengths. I want a woman who could lead me. Like one of my exes was a doctor, right? And then so if ever I got sick or ever I had questions, I said, listen, I just asked her. I said, listen, and then she would try to educate me about it. I said, listen, you don't got to tell me nothing. I already know you're right. Do whatever. Tell me whatever. I take whatever. I don't even care. You in control. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is your thing. I don't have no input. I'm going to follow what you say. You know what I'm saying? So and I know that's kind of prolonged, but I think for men who's established, right? Because I know a lot of men who's established. I know a lot of millionaires, and it's never really about the money. It's all about the relationship and the friendship, right? So that's what I mean when I say, Ty, unconditional, right? Do you love me for who I am? Or do you love me for what I can give you and do for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I mean.
Okay.
I don't think anybody is loved more unconditionally than Black men. Like, it's almost overdone. Like, I still see women stick with men through cheating, beating, jail, all kinds of things. Like, I don't think that Black women have ever had the grace that Black men have had. I don't think that a whole lot of people have ever had the grace that we give a lot of Black men. And that's from their mothers, their wives, their girlfriends, their family. I just don't think that anybody has more unconditional love than y'all. Because I'm talking, so for example, I feel like Tammy just said, hey, when I got with my husband, he ain't had nothing. He didn't have anything. And I still decided, hey, this is what I want. I want to date him. I want to marry him. And I want to follow him. I want to give him some babies. I want to listen to him. He wasn't no millionaire. She said that. And I feel like we overlook those things. And then we hear, oh, you want to date me because I got some stuff. And that's not really how it goes. We might get on Facebook and say, I want a man with this kind of car and blah, blah, blah. And we might see that. But if you actually look at the people in your lives, it ain't really going like that. We dating men that are
Not-
beneath us. We are practicing
Yup.
whatever is the opposite of hypergamy. Like that's just not how it goes in real life. That's just how we think it goes in our head.
Got it. You know, and before I comment on that, Tay or Ty, do y'all want to chime in?
No, I think
They agreeing in the
She said
comments.
it. She said it.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I was gonna say she said it.
you know, and and the reason I say you want to comment because I want to give you the opportunity to speak on it, right? And so, as a black man, right, when I hear you say that, and I agree, I largely agree that black women are loyal to black men, right? You know, but just imagine if black women said we feel unprotected by black men, right? Which you do say that, right?
We do.
And then statistically, black men marry and most majority of black men, they don't date outside their race, they marry black women. And so just because black men marry black women, majority of them, it doesn't mean that's going to change how you feel about being unprotected or being unloved, right? And so to your point, it's one thing to say that if you look at how we date men who are broken or how we date men who don't make money or how they don't have anything, you know, it's one thing to use your, you know, or it was one thing to use those examples to demonstrate loyalty. But in those relationships, if you ask black men, it's criticism, it's arguing during those things, it's fighting, right? Cops are called, it's domestic violence. So saying that just because we dated black men and we always dated black men means we love them is not sufficient to say we love them, right? You know, it's you know, and that's the thing I want you to understand, right? Black men marrying black women at high rates doesn't mean that you're always protected, right? Like, you know, you shared in your marriage, right? You was married to a black man, but unprotected, right? And I'm pretty sure if somebody asked him, he said, well, maybe I was unloved. I don't know, right? You know, everybody is two sides to every story. Really, it's really three: your side, his side, and the truth. And so I think that as opposed to saying, right, that, well, we do love you, so shut up, because obviously we do love you. That's what that means. You don't mean it that way, but it means we do love you, so stop talking. You can't tell, and that's the thing. That's what black men do to black women. You say things and we filter it how we want to filter it, and we tell you how you should feel about our behavior, right? And that's not fair to y'all. So it's not fair, Kristen, to say, well, we've been loyal to y'all. Look, we date y'all. Y'all should be happy. That means that's not love, right? You know, and so I think that, how about I love you? How about I value you? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look on IG, social media, Facebook, you know, or society, right? There's no institution that celebrates man empowerment or loving men, right? You know, men can't even put on social media, I'm sad or I'm lonely. That's embarrassing to us. Most of us as men feel like if I say I'm incompetent, or if I say I'm lonely or I'm weak, I'm going to be shamed. And y'all might not feel this way. You might say, well, it's not a shame. We do. But my point is, who's saying that? The conversation is not being had where we actually know how you really feel. And just being present in a relationship doesn't mean you love me. Just because I come home to you don't mean I love you. Men would say that. I married you, that mean I love you. So what, I cheated? I married you. So what, I slept with her. So what, I had them kids. I come home to you. I pay your bills. So just being present, Kristen, is not sufficient to articulate and express love. You know,
I agree with that.
And all I wanted to do was, like, black men is listening. Most of us really feel that way, that you know, that you have this expectation of our role, even if we're not feeling it, that you criticize us for not feeling it, and you might say you're committed to us, but we you know, we feel criticized while not feeling that role, and we don't feel that you love us unconditionally.
Okay.
The same way you feel.
I have to play devil's advocate. I
Mhm.
have to. So you just said we have this expectation of this role that you are supposed to fill. And the entire
Oh no, what happened?
What happened? Okay, there you go. All right.
okay, I'm on two of them now.
Wi-Fi be hating on you, Kristen, but go ahead. You got it.
It does.
Go ahead.
So that time it was Deanna. It wasn't Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So I feel like, and you know what? I don't feel like this is the actual case. You just said we have this expectation of the things that we want y'all to do, the role that we need you to fulfill. And we have been on here an hour and a half, and an hour of it, we have talked about the expectations that y'all have to fulfill. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I need a woman that's going to submit. I need to be.
All right, we lost you again. I'm gonna try to wait. Okay, there you go. So it's okay. We gonna make it happen. Right, we can hear you. The last thing you said is we've been on here like an hour talking about the needs of men. I could hear you. I don't know why people can't hear you, man. That's crazy. So what she said is we've been on here for an hour and a half talking about the expectations of men, and now she's confused because basically I'm saying y'all can't have these expectations, but we can, right? And so absolutely, and I understand your point, and bring everybody back into on the screen, right? So to your point, right, and that's an important point. It's a couple things. One thing, I'm asking questions relative to the topic of submission, right? So, and it's a panel of women, right? And so all of the questions is in alignment with the gender of the ladies on the podcast and the topic at hand. The second thing, though, and I want to clarify what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you should not have expectations. You should have expectations, right? Men and women should have expectations. But I think that okay, so like for example, when God says to love the woman, okay, like so the Bible says that the husband should love the wife the way Christ loved the church, right?
Mhm.
And it says that he died and gave his life for the church. So how do I interpret that? What that means is that a man, a good man or a godly man has the attitude that I'm willing to sacrifice my life for my woman. When you look at God loved us when we ain't have nothing. right? He loved us before we loved him. When we did not know how to worship, praise, be obedient, serve him, he said, I still love you irregardless of the role or my expectation that you're not fulfilling, right? And so how do I apply that to my relationship philosophy? Yes, I have expectations for what a woman can do, but I would like to have the kind of love that supersedes my expectations. So if my expectations is for her to do this, hopefully one day I have a love that even if those expectations were not met, I can still love her unconditionally without holding back, without being partial, right? Somebody said 50-50. I think relationship is 100-100. I give 100% of me, 100% of my best. All I can do is my best, but you give 100% of your best, and that you know what I'm saying. And so for me, you know, I think that we want that kind of love, but we're not having the conversations where you as women understand that there are men who want to do good, who's willing to be transparent, vulnerable, honest, and then lead by example to provide, protect, not use their money to control you, not use their masculinity to shut you down. There's men who subscribe to these things. And let me finish this time, and then you can jump on. Then there's also women. There's women who can love unconditionally. There's women who, the thing is, it's not being expressed. We don't hear it. It's not being said. And the purpose of this platform is for me to challenge you to articulate that. Now go ahead, Ty.
All right. So someone put in the chat, he said, Carlton, I've been there. I did that. I love my wife as Christ loved the church, but I ended up coming up short. So now what?
That's a great question. Ty, you got to be a co-host because I can't, by the way, I can't see the questions. I wish I could see them. It's set up on multiple screens. I still can't see them.
I tell you, they be getting down in these questions.
Yeah, we got to resolve that.
I would ask if Carlton's wife is a God-fearing woman, if she has, you know, the voice of Christ too, because if not, then, you know, I can see where he struggles with that. But
so Miss Tammy, I would say this. I know Carlton, he's divorced man, but he speaks very highly of this ex-wife all the time. Never says anything bad about, you know, their split or anything. I know him to be a very godly man. I'm not sure about the wife, but Carlton, come on and answer these questions.
Well, and let me chime in on that. I think that's very important. Carlton, you said his name is right, Carlton?
Yes, Carlton.
You know, see, this is, and I'll tie it in with a question you asked me last week. You said, why am I not in a relationship? I believe that as a woman and as a man, when you serve God, I believe that God arranges the relationship. I believe that God puts two people together, and I think it's up to him. So what I did as an adult, I actually stopped. This is my right-handed God. I prayed like a year and a half ago. I said, God, I'm tired of choosing who I want to be with. I'm giving you that control moving forward. It's not up to me. So I relinquished control. And I said, it's not up to me. You know, and so Carlton, the thing is, you can never be too good for the wrong person, right? You know, and so what does that mean, right? What that means is you might be a man of God, you might have good character, you might be developed, but if God, because the Bible says what God put together, let no man separate. What that also means is what God puts together, it cannot end. It says, so when two people become one flesh, that means they are literally inseparable. God doesn't make mistakes. So when relationships end, two people might have good intentions, but you know, there's a saying that says the road to destruction is paved with good intentions. You can mean well all you want, but if you go sit down and take a test and say, I have good intentions to take this test, so I hope I pass, but you're not prepared for it, then you're going to fail. And so my belief based on my relationship with God is that, and specific to you, Carlton, if you wait for God, see, we can choose, I could choose a woman could choose me. If we just choose each other based on our own needs, 9 times out of 10 is not going to work. But if we allow God to choose the woman for us and the man for you, for the women, then, and it's based on his purpose, it will be inseparable. So that's my response to Carlton, is let God choose. Because just because you're a good, and y'all know it, like women say this all the time, I was submissive, I had his back, I did everything, and he still dogged me, and it changed my definition or it changed my perspective. And so I got hurt too. And I was close to changing my perspective and changing my nature. However, I was closer to God than I was my hurt. So although I hurt and I was damaged, I still loved God to death. And I said, I'm not about to be like that. I'm not about to be bitter or broken. I'm too bright. I got too much ambition. I'm too positive. I'm not going to submit to that experience. I said, God, you know what? That's my fault. I take responsibility. I chose her or them three based on what I felt like the value I could add, and it wasn't for me. So I forgave. It even got to a point, Ty, where I started looking at my relationships from years ago. I'm like, dang, man. And as I started growing, I started realizing the things I did wrong that I blamed the women for before. Right hand of God. So it might seem weird to y'all, but what I did, I called some of them like years later. I'm like, you know what? Hey, how you doing? Chit chat, how life? I said, listen, I know you probably don't care no more, but I apologize for what I did in that relationship. I just started assuming responsibility, right? And I didn't have to do that. I didn't announce this. I didn't tell nobody. As I started to mature, I'm like, dad, it was my fault. You know, I put you in that situation. I put too many expectations on you. You wasn't ready for this. You know what I'm saying? So I think Carlton, it's when you're a good man, it is hard to find a good woman sometimes based on how we feel. Just like I can imagine for women, it's hard to find a good man. So it's easy to settle and try to fix somebody up. My advice is to let God choose, and God don't make mistakes. And what he puts together, there's no physical situation that can destroy it. And God would never put you with somebody who can't love you like how he loves you, and I understand that, right? And that's what I subscribe to, and that's what I'm hoping for one day. It don't matter how good y'all think I am. You don't know me. I sin. I make dumb decisions. You don't know me. All y'all do is talk. I got my own stuff that I'm working on. But what I do know is that I'm honest and transparent, and I subscribe to the kind of relationship that, it's a scripture, right? And it says, and I want you to pull this up. This is important for men who are Christians, right? And this is what it says. I want to pull it up real quick, right? It's 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. And pull that up on the screen for me. And I want y'all to understand, like, why it's important to have a man of God. So 1 Peter, it says, husbands, respect and honor your wives, the weaker vessel, as partners. It says, lest your prayers go unanswered. So if you're dating a man of God who loves God for real, God says two things. He says, one, although the woman is the weaker vessel, I'm requiring you to treat her like an equal partner. So submission doesn't mean inequality. I'm still required to respect you, although I expect submission. And I'm still required to treat you equivalent to me, although we fulfill different roles. The second thing he says, to honor you. He says, if I don't honor you, he's not going to answer my prayers. That means I'm not going to be blessed. I'm not going to prosper. So I don't subscribe to a healthier aspect of masculinity to impress the woman or what you think. It's not about what you think about me. You could think the world of me. So what? I know when I do get into a relationship, if I don't respect and honor the woman I'm with, God is not going to bless me. And there's no woman alive worth me not being prosperous in my life. Ty, go ahead, Ty.
So, okay. The preacher's wife says, Amos 3:3, do two walk together unless they have agreed to meet?
That's the question she asked?
That's the Bible verse she put on.
Got you. And so interpreting that, it's saying two people can't be in a relationship unless they agree on the same principles and purpose. It says it's not going to work. That's what that means, right? And so it means that you have to agree on purpose and principle in order to have a sustaining relationship. Like, you ever been in a relationship where, like, and most people break up, it's because, yeah, you love them, but you're like, I didn't know you thought that way. I didn't know you was like this. I didn't know you thought that was acceptable. I didn't know you thought this was, like, who are you? It's like, why would you?
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't agree. So love and sex and compatibility is not enough. God, what that scripture means, your friend or your aunt, the preacher's wife, God is saying, in order to have a successful relationship, you have to have the same understanding, the same way of thinking about the same principles, the same purpose, right? So that's what that particular verse means, right? And so, but all I'm saying, right, and we're kind of bringing it to a close, because we almost at 2 hours again, right? And I do want y'all to give your input as well, your closing input, but my observation is that both men and women, I'm going to say women because it's an all women panel, I think that you have different experiences, right, that has led you to conclude different things, right? And based on those experiences, right, the hurt or the disappointment or the dissatisfaction or lack of compatibility, it essentially led you to conclude and reason different things that you feel is safe and secure for you. My compel, my urge is to, yes, learn from your experience. Definitely don't discount your experience, but learn from God. Only perfect love can teach you perfect love and can bring perfect love into your life. And God is perfect love. So if we don't subscribe to perfect love, if we don't follow after the only perfect individual, which is Christ, then we're going to meet imperfect men, imperfect women, participating in imperfect philosophies and relationships, trying to love based on our imperfections. And if God is not in it, we're going to do the best we can. And then when we fail, we don't have any other options. We really don't know what to do. And so my purpose for Date to Marry is not to change a woman or change a man. It's to say that God would never pair you with somebody that will break you. Carlton, God would never tell you to marry a woman who's going to divorce you. He would not do that. And so a lot of times we choose what we want to do, but we're not trained on how to listen to God and wait. It's literally hard for me because I strive to practice celibacy and I'm a sexual being. It's not easy, right? But what I constantly think, if I don't discipline myself, then God is not going to give me what I truly desire, right? And I had to trust God that, God, you can give me a woman who an entrepreneur. She gonna be a freak. She can be my best friend. She gonna be compatible. She gonna be funny. Like, you're gonna give me somebody that I would never be bored of, that I can be as adventurous with as I want, and I can actually enjoy the rest of my life without cheating. And I really desire that, right? And so, and I encourage women, if you're not already in a relationship or married, desire the same thing. God created you. He has a purpose for you, and he has someone specific to you that will not only meet every need, but ultimately to help elevate you the way you really want to be elevated for the purpose of God. And so, ladies, that is our session for the day, our episode for the day. Any closing remarks, feedback before we end tonight's episode?
I can say that I am really, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I am very proud to see and be amongst women that are so that have opinions and are strong in what their opinions are and are happy in the opinions that they have and stand in them. And I feel like any man that you do or don't decide to be with, would be happy to be with someone that does stand strong in what
Right.
they stand strong in. I really truly believe that. Like that's the first step to being in something that you do want to be in, is being a whole person by yourself. And continuing to, growing as that person with another whole person. So I saw that in every last one of y'all, and this week and last week, and I love that about
Absolutely.
everybody.
Well, I want to say
Absolutely.
this, Miss Tammy. With you being the married person on the panel, I like what you say about your husband. And if I one day, now listen, if I one day marry, I want to be able to speak about my husband like you just did, because every time you spoke about your husband, you smiled. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, that makes me feel like you truly are happy in your
Mm-hmm.
union. And I think that that's what it's supposed to be about.
Right.
So kudos to you. And don't think that I disrespect the union of marriage, because I don't.
You don't
I
think that?
I
Yeah,
truly
no, I don't think that at
you
all.
smiled multiple times when you spoke on your husband's masculinity and him leading and guiding. I like that. Kudos to y'all. Keep it up.
Absolutely.
Tears. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, he's a good man, and I really do believe, Keith, that there's a good man for every woman. But I think it is also important to become a good woman, or to walk into your good womanness, because there lies that good man. And I understand everybody ain't on here looking for a man. I get that too, but it's just a good energy to have anyway, to carry that positive energy. So yeah.
Absolutely. Tay, any closing remarks?
Oh, it's just been awesome to be here with you, these ladies, and also to get your perspective, the male perspective,
Yeah.
because a lot of times we don't get that. Y'all don't speak openly and honestly with us.
Right.
So
Right.
it is a good perspective to hear. So I appreciate that. And thank you, ladies, for your
And
opinion.
kudos to the viewers. They were really throwing out some great questions and really like basically chopping us up. Like, explain that. Can you elaborate on that?
Right.
Wait, go back. So I mean, the viewers were really in here, and I happened to see three people that I know. So hey, y'all, thanks for joining.
I'm looking
Absolutely.
forward to hearing what more men think. That would be a
Mhm.
Yeah.
very interesting show, right?
Yes.
Well, I was going to say that in our closing. Next week, we got a panel of 5 men of all ages, younger and older, and we're going to put them up to the light and get their mindset and see who they are and how they think. And so, listen, viewers, I couldn't see your questions on my screen today, but submit your questions, send them to our email. We would love to answer them. If you want to be a guest on our show, if you want to sponsor our platform, if you want to join our women's empowerment team, listen, go to our website, www.mainstreamdigitalnetwork.com/D2M, all lowercase. Listen, take care. God bless you all. I'll see you next Thursday at 7:30 p.m. God bless. Deuces.